Okay, welcome back to Workshop of All Sorts. I'm standing out in the studio, and as you can see behind me, the plasterboarding is all done. So insulation, this video is going to be about putting in my first fix electrics. Not going to show you too much of that, as I said. It's just going to be basic and allow you to do that. I'm not taking any responsibility for what others do. I'm competent in doing it. Well, I think I am. The electrician will decide on that. Yeah, so this is basically the electrics. It's fitting in the box, how I fixed in the boxes between the joists, how I put in all the insulation. So it's 97mm insulation of the foam kingspan in between all the joists in the ceiling as well. And then obviously you would have seen in the previous video, there's 100mm insulation under the floor as well. So like it's really well insulated. And then plasterboard just finished this evening. So thank you to all the new subscribers as well, up over 130 now. It's great to see, and it just gives you a wee bit of confidence as well. You know, this is my first time at this, first time in front of a camera, and listen, it looks like there's 132 people are impressed with what I do, so that's good enough for me. I hope you enjoy this one. As I said, it's the best I could do in terms of, it's just, you get into a wee rhythm and you forget yourself that you even put on the camera. You just get stuck into it and you bang up the boards, and then you go, oh shit, I never filmed any of this. But listen, once you see a couple of the boards that I did put up and I showed it on camera, it's very repetitive thereafter. Plasterboarding, it's not the hardest job in the world, it just takes a bit of time, and when you're on your own it's a wee bit slower again. So hope you enjoy it. That's me finished ranting. So I'm just going to cut this last piece of waste wood, the waste clay, and I'm going to rip it down to the 70mm that I will add the rest of the back plates that I've made for mounting the electric boxes to, and I'll show you that now in a wee second. But I'll just rip this here now. And just a wee tip when you're ripping any play, just raise your blade enough that it's coming up to the top of the play. Don't have your blade sitting high, because worst case scenario, if you were to slip or fall, at least, yes, you're going to get a bad cut obviously on the blade, but you're not going to cut the hand off yourself. So it's really important that you just, I can lower that a little bit there yet, just enough that the blade's coming through the timber. So like I say, you'll see it when I'm pushing it through now. All you're going to see is the top of the blade. So I've got my last three measurements here, which is 366. So measure 366. Mark it on the wood, because these are all slightly different. I couldn't set up a stop block, but that's okay. So set it up. With this saw, you've got a shadow. I don't know if you can see it here, but you've got a backlight. So when you switch on the light, it actually shows the shadow. Hopefully we can see that in the camera. That just shows you that you're aligned with the blade. Once you're set up, cut it through, and what I'm doing is, I'm just going to, I couldn't actually, can I? Yeah. I just noticed there's a, I measure from here, so it's still okay. I'll just turn that off. It's just 366. Add that to the pile. The next one is 359. 359. Just mark. I'll turn on the hoover this time. So I've got my pocket hole jig set up here, and if, for anyone that doesn't know, the pocket hole jig is the machine that does this cut here, or these holes. So a lot of people use them in furniture making, but I'm going to fix these between the joists. So you've got your joist coming down here, a joist coming down here, pocket holes in here, and the pocket hole screw looks like that. So it's got a flat head on it, and it's got the square hex head. So basically then you push that into the holes here, and then that is like almost hidden. That just screws right through then into the joist that's running here, and then that will hold your electric plate. So then you'll mount your electric plate to that. You'll punch out one of these holes here, cut the same hole, I think it's a 20mm hole, through, put your grommet on, and then you pull your daisy chain through that, so you're in and you're out will be on that. But that's just the way I'm going to fix them between the joists. So I'll just show you here how I use the machine for doing the pocket holes. So you can see here you've got your different holes. So I don't know, I'll zoom in here. So you've got this A and C hole here. Once you get your piece in, doing this with one hand is not that simple, but you literally set it up just roughly even there, and then at the back you've got a clamp that once you push the handle forward, locks that timber in place. It's nice and square to the base down here. These holes, so from this distance to your line here, and out here to this line, that's basically the centre of these two holes. So you have a nice even distance between these. Don't have to be precise, but I'm just sort of showing you what these here are for. So as I said, I would use these for making cabinets or... So this is the drill bit that I use. So you can see here, it's got a guide point here, and then on this here, there's a locking collar. So it depends on the thickness of your play. This is 18mm, so I've got this set here. There's a guide over on the base of the unit that tells you what distance from the collar that sits in here to the tip of your drill bit down here. So that gives you the guide. But as I said, mine's 18mm, so mine's set up proper. So I'll just do a couple of holes here now. It's simple enough. You put it through here. This is loose here. Just need to tighten this up. So you literally put it in. This guides it in straight. Like you could take your hands off if you really want, but. And then you go to the other one. That's it. Simple as that. So you can see it makes that holes there. I'm going to continue through with these. I'll not bore you showing them all. So once I've all these finished, I'll take them out and we'll start to fix them in place. So I'm going to show you now how I put on the backing plates for the electric boxes. So these boxes are going to screw on to, so these are going to be used like as a, just somewhere to mount the electric box. You can get ones that you just cut into the plasterboard, and to be honest, they're not great. They eventually come loose and they're not powerful. So you can remember that on my pocket holes, so these will split in between the joists here, and might just have to use the hammer, but I'll get them in. And I've got this jig here set up, a bit of 2x2 here with a bit of play on the top of it that sits over the top of this. So once I push this in and the back of this hits the wall, I know that's in far enough then to allow the box to be pretty much flush mounted. So then your plasterboard obviously will be going on here. This will be slightly proud, the box. This will go on here then, and then I can get insulation in behind it, but in behind this here backplate. So I'll do this here now, and I'll do this one, and it's going to be very repetitive. So I'll do the one and then I'll show you how it all worked out. tight now there. That's in place. And then this box, as you can see, slightly proud here. But what I'll do now is I'll get my little level. So I'll put the level on top of that. It's not far away. It needs to go down a bit on this side here. No, it's too much now. That's perfect there now. And then just do it this way. So it needs to go in on the head a bit. And that's perfect there. A tiny wee bit. It's not set there now, so it's level. So obviously when you screw the box to this and use the top edge of the backboard as the guide, you know it's going to be level. So now I get my screws. Just remember we talked about these here, so you just literally get a few of these. Still level. So we just get this in here now like so. You don't really have to be too ignorant with these, you just let them, once they bite, that's that. And then hopefully this will just pop up. So now that's pretty much it. And then the electric box will fit on here. So as I said, once it's flush with that, I know that the box will be level, like so, 100% there. And then I will pop out one of the, so that, I don't know if anybody knows, but there's 4 outlets. You literally get a screwdriver, punch it out, drill a hole here. So you mark it there, obviously. Mark your hole, put your grommet in. I'll show you that now in a wee second. And then you just feed your wires up from the back in. And then if it's you've one coming in from the socket that's down here, will come into this one. And then a wire out into your next one, and so on. So I've just punched the hole out here now. So you've got these grommets then that fits into this hole. So I'll just put that in here now. It just literally squeezes in. And what this does is, because I'm not using conduit, it's just going to be all mounted on the back. So there you have the grommet in now. So all the sharp edges from punching out the hole, they're all protected now by this rubber grommet. So once I put this on here now, as I said, find my location, and then bore my hole, screw down the box, job done. So I've just marked the hole here, so I just get this now and put it in the center of that hole. Board. The box will sit down into that point there, and then I'll just mount it, put 2 screws into the box, and that's it pretty much. And then the plasterboard, obviously you cut out the hole, plasterboard on, screw down your joist on both sides and every single other joist going forward. So that's pretty much it. So that's a good job there, good tight fit, and that pushes. This hole here is slightly bigger than what the grommet is. There's a 22mm hole, and that means that grommet, it doesn't sit out and let the box rock. The grommet actually fits into the hole, pushes in, so the box doesn't rock. It's a nice solid job. And that there, you could pull at that, that's never coming off. So that's pretty much it. So that's all. The box is on now. I'll just bring you up a bit closer now so you can see them up close. So as I said, that's where we've mounted them to the joists. There you can see the grommet. and the hole going out the back, so I'll feed the wires through that. And then, so if we step back a little bit here, so this area, let's say from about that joist in across to about here and down, that's going to be like just a little kitchen area. You'll have a cupboard, sink. Then up here, you'll have your consumer unit, so you can see your line coming in here. That's going to run right up to the consumer unit. All your wires then are coming back to that from the sockets. And then if we step back, have all the sockets then mounted along here. That's a double socket. That's a single plate for your heater that's going here. So that'll be on a separate loop. So I'll have all my sockets on one loop, and then I'll have them on a separate loop. So your heater here, another double socket there, double socket there, and then a heater here again. So I think it's two kilowatt heaters are going in. Then we've got another double socket there, double socket up there, and a double socket down there. So that's pretty much it in terms of the sockets. Now I just need to start the wiring, and then I'm going to start to get all the measurements in for the downlighters. Okay, so I've just finished the wiring, and I'll take you on a quick tour of that. And I've started the insulation. I want to take you through the insulation and how I'm going to do it, and how I'm cutting the kingspan boards as well. So I'll flip you around here now, and you can see now it's actually getting a bit dark here. You can see up there in the corner, all my cables are coming down here. Okay, and my mains then is coming up from a pipe in the ground, and it'll run the whole way up into the consumer unit up here. So I've all my sockets on. So obviously that's my first socket, so I've taken a cable down into that one, looped it into this one, and I'll take you down into the corner here too. So I'm running my wires right along the edge along here. So all I have to do then on the boards here is just take a wee 45-degree angle off the bottom corner of them, just so that it can take in the cable. So as I said, then I'm on over to this socket, and then from that socket into that, and right the way around. That's all my insulation in the corner. And then my last socket is over there in the corner, just under the window. And then obviously I've taken my cable out of that one, up the wall, on it right along, back to the consumer unit. That completes the ring of the sockets. And then here, there's two heaters going. There's a 1.5 kilowatt heater going here, and another one just going behind that insulation. I've ran separate cables for them, so they have their own independent feed. Again, 2.5mm cable, just straight up across the roof, down into the consumer unit. So that's pretty much, again, I don't want to talk too much about the wiring because, as I say, I've done it myself, and I'm not a qualified electrician, but I know what I'm doing. And then I've got the lights, you can just see them. So I've taped up the cables until the insulation goes up. So once the insulation goes up here, those cables won't be able to drop down. And then I've marked, and I've a map of my entire, you should be able to see them there now, all the different cables coming down. So 15 lights in total. So you've got a row coming down there, row coming down the middle, and then a row coming down over here. And I've got a map, so once I put up my insulation, then plasterboard, cut out my holes, the cables will be there, you just pull them through, so it's simple enough. Now, on to the insulation board. I've done a wee sample here, because I'm not going to bore you with this. If you go online, you'll see plenty of people doing this here. So, you know, I'm putting in the 100mm insulation, so it's going to fill out that gap completely there. I'm cutting the sheets, so if you can imagine that's 8 feet, which came up to about here, by 4 foot board. So to make it easy for myself, this here is the 4 feet width of the board. So I'm cutting them all, just strips off the widths of the joists and putting them into place. And then what I'll do on top of these, over here and all the way around, is I'll put in my noggins and then take my next sheet up to the ceiling, okay? And then again, just want to stand so that you can see this. Once I made all my boards in place, I'm going to foil tape all joints. You can see I've done it here just for the purpose of the sample of the video. Foil tape all these, and because this is foil taped, and again it's open for discussion, but I won't need a radon, or not a radon barrier, sorry, a vapor barrier, because it's going to be completely sealed. And I don't believe, and I've seen guys say the same thing, there's more saying you don't need a vapor barrier than there is saying you do. Now if you didn't foil tape these, I would say yeah, you probably would need it, you'd be better with it than without it. And I'll do the same up here on the ceiling, just as in foil tape every single joint. I'm going to buy a wider roll, so it's just one strip down between each. You can get 100mm rolls. I just bought 75, which was incorrect. It just leaves it a little tight then if you're putting it down here. So I'm going to buy a 100mm roll, and that's it. So on to cutting the boards then. Haven't seen too many people use these, to be honest. A guy called Robin Clevitt is the first guy I seen using them. It's a special blade for cutting insulation. It's actually, yeah, it is sharp, but I would call it serrated. There's like serrated teeth on it, opposed to points. And then you obviously just mark out your line for your cut. This cuts it. Little or no dust, very, very little dust of it, but I'd still recommend you wear a mask. But it leaves you with a nice clean edge then, instead of using the handsaw. I don't know about anybody that's ever done this before, but Jesus, trying to cut straight line and cut it so that it's not sloped or going out that way. It's kind of hard enough to cut. So I've seen this here online. You put it into the jigsaw, it's just like a jigsaw blade. Stick it in, and it's very, very easy to cut then. So that's it. As I said, I'm not going to bore you. The next clip you're probably going to see, and hopefully, is the complete insulation will be done. What I'm doing here in this void, so I've obviously start off with a full 100mm bit here. Then you've got a void here where obviously I had to put in the backing board for the socket box. So there's a void here. If I put in the other sheet, you're going to have a void. So what I'm going to do, I'm just putting in this here. It's like a recycled plastic. Now this here isn't the itchy stuff. So literally just shoving that down in there. So that fills that void in there, like so. And then I literally put the sheet down in on top of that, like so. Tape up my joints, and then here in this little void at the bottom of each of these, I've got 25mm insulation that I had left over from the camper van. I'll just put it in here. I'll cut around these. It's going to take a bit of time and to get it neat and tidy, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to carry on putting on these here first. I'll tape up that there as well. Tape up these and then continue on down to the bottom. All right. Just wanted to show you that bit. So before I push in the sheet in the roof, I've got a piece of 4x2 here, and I just put it in line with the edge here, and then I mark it across the board, like so. The reason I'm doing that is, if we just take the camera off for a wee second. So if you see up here, for example, well, here's the board I'm putting in here over here now. So here, I let the board overhang that void by the thickness of the wall, if that makes sense. So that stud top plate there is a 4x2. So I let the sheet run in past that by the 4 inches that I've marked on the board. So that way then, you can imagine, anybody, it should make sense anyway, I hope it does. These sheets here, then when they go up to that point where they meet, there will be a continuous insulated area, like there's no cold spot, so to speak. So again, if you look what I mean there, that's 4 inches in past the wall plate or the stud plate. So it's in 4 inches, so that means that this is 4 inches and then that's 4 inches. So where they meet at the corner, you've got a continuous insulated area. I don't know, it's maybe a bit of overkill, but I think it's better doing it now than not, if that makes sense. Okay, so I have all the ceiling, well not them all, but I have 2/3 of all the sheets in that doesn't need a hole cut out for a wire. So I'm going to try and explain how I'm going to do this, and again you can do it whatever way you want, but you can see there, above the light there, there's an X. So that's exactly where the drop is down. I have a wee map taken of this, so I know exactly what's happening. So I've measured my sheet. I've measured where the drop is coming down. Okay, so then we go on over to our sheet here. So this is the exact place once I get the sheet in. So I've allowed for the overhang over the wall plate. So I've measured then from that point up 23.5 inches to the center of the light, and then it's 45 mil into the center. So these are my lights here. Okay, so you have to allow as well for your 15 mil plasterboard. So if you can imagine, I've done a wee mark here just to make it a bit easier to understand. So see that mark there? Yeah, that's the depth of the once the light is flush in on the ceiling. So once you've cut out your hole in the plasterboard, pushed your light in, that's where the top of the plasterboard will be. Okay, so if I can hold this with one hand. So from that line there then to here to the top of the light is 45 mil. So I'm going to allow a few mil at the top just for a bit of space. And then if you measure, you have to allow for your clips, that when you push it through the hole, these clips then drop down on the top of the plasterboard and hold it in place. So they're going to be sitting out slightly, if you can imagine, they're going to be sitting out like that. So I've allowed 150, so I've measured again, 150 mil. So then obviously 150 mil here, I'm going to measure out a square, 150 by 150. Well actually the joist is here, so I'm not going to get 150 here, but it's going to be literally 150 wide. And then down, cut out the square. So again, this is 100 mil plat. That's giving you, it's up against the other sheet, but I'll pull it out to try and not confuse things. So obviously the depth of this here then is 100. So I'm going to cut the whole square out and then put back in 50 mil of plasterboard with the hole in it. It'll all make sense now in a wee second, but it's just much easier to do it this way than to start gouging out. This one particular light, you probably could, and I might do the 100, mark down 50 and gouge it out. But see, when you're into lights that's going to be dead center of a board, you're not going to be able to do that, and it's going to be an absolute mess hooking. So I think the best thing is to cut the entire slot out of the board. Let's say the hole's here. Just cut out 150 mil square right through the board, and then put your board up with your cable coming through it, and then replace about 50 mil of plasterboard or of insulation in the hole to allow for the light to fit in. Hope that all makes sense. I'll try and maybe show you as I'm doing it. It's just very hard to do it with one hand, but that's kind of the idea. And these lights here I'm using, they're low enough watt, but if you can zoom in there. So you can have a warm light, which I believe is that 3000K there. You can just see it if I hold it. And then on the right hand side there, you've got 5700K. That's the white light, and that's the one my wife wants to go for, a nice bright light for doing art and all the rest. So that's the lights. They're handy enough. They're about 10 quid each, maybe, I think. They're about a tenner each in a local supplier, and they're supposed to be a good light. So that's it. I'll carry on here now, and hopefully I'll show you as I'm doing it then. It'll make more sense. Okay. So I've cut the square out now, and I'm going to replace that back in again, and I've foiled the back of it because that's going to be up against the ceiling now. I don't know if it makes any difference, but I've just done it anyway, just in case. So you can see now I've pushed back in the square that I cut out, but I cut 50mm off it. So I'm going to try and show you this and give you an idea of what it might make a bit more sense now. So if you can imagine that light now is in, I'm going to hold my fingers underneath it to sort of pretend that that's the 15mm for the plasterboard that it'll be hanging down. And you can see there's a nice bit of room at the top. There's plenty of room for the wings. So when I cut out my hole in the plasterboard here, there's plenty of room diagonally for the wings to come out in this one. And these three along here are going to be all the same. That one, and well, that came down off the ceiling there, but you can see the other one taped up over at the window. So that's pretty much it. I'll foil round these here as well and tidy all that up before I put on the plasterboard. But that's basically it. And then for anybody that doesn't know, you literally tuck your wires up there and you push them in out of the way. Okay, push them in out of the way, and then you get your hole saw, because as I said, I've got the map. I'll cut the hole saw through the plasterboard, try and not damage the wires. I'll move them out of the way maybe another wee bit, and then you literally put your finger in through the 67 or 68mm hole that you're going to bore for the light to push up into. You pull the wires then down through it. Electrician does his bit, pushes them back up, job done. So you can see now I've just done all the expanding foam, filled all the hole cracks. I've probably done it about half an hour now, so you can see it's hard already. So all I have to do then is go off and scrape off all them. So remember the last clip, you would have seen those cracks along there. So those are all filled. Then what I also done, went around all the lights, any wee gaps within the lights, I've filled those as well. So it's just, I suppose, closing out the air. And then in the corner, I had still this 4x2 to put in here to carry the plasterboard in the corner. So you can still see it's dripping. So what I did was, nailed it up at the top, nailed it at the bottom, drilled about 6 holes in it, started from the bottom, and you can see it's all oozing out there now. Started from the bottom, pumped in, expanding foam the whole way up, so it fills that void between here and the outside stud. So there's a gap of about 4 inches. No, probably not. 2.5 inches, I'd say. So that's all filled now. So what I'll do is I'll let this here harden, and then it'll just come off all in one lump. And then what I'll do with this void here, it's about 1.5 inches. I'm just going to stuff this stuff here. I'll just stuff that into it. And then again, as I said on the last clip, I have to stuff now all that there. And then I'll go off and I'll start scraping off all these here bits of expanding foam, and then I'll start back at the taping. And you would have seen, as I said before, some taping already done. So I had some foaming done there. That's all taped, so just I'll have to tape the entire building then, roof, walls, the whole lot, and then it's plasterboarding time. So we're nearly there, and then on the home straight. Okay, so I have the first row of plasterboard across the ceiling. I got help. My wife came down and gave me a hand with that. Now she's not about today. So instead of doing nothing, I'm gonna, because the ceiling's on here, I can get onto plasterboarding all this back wall here. So what I've done here, and again, this is all very repetitive, so I'll sort of show you how I'm doing it, and then, you know, you can work it out then for yourselves. It's pretty straightforward, to be honest. So obviously down at the bottom here, I've cut back the plastic, and you can see there now I've marked the center of my studs. Okay, and again on the top, you can see there, and there. I've marked the studs, because once you put your plasterboard up against the wall here, you're not going to see where the stud is. So I'll then just pull a line or a plumb, use me level, down to the bottom. Okay, so that's basically what that's for. So once you get those right, on this particular sheet I have one socket to cut out. So I'm starting from here, I'm going to leave this gap here. There's a reason for that I'll explain later on. But obviously once I start here, the next sheet goes to there. That's a 4 foot width, so that's your 400 centres. So it lands exactly in the middle of that, and then you go to the next and so on up the wall. So then basically I will measure from the middle of this stud here to the start of my socket, measure to the far side of the socket, so there's your 2 marks there. And then I'll measure up from the bottom to the bottom of the socket and to the top of the socket. So measure from there to the bottom, then the width of the socket. I've actually got a box. And then I'll just cut it out with the what do you call that darn tool? The multi-tool. You know, the multi... Yeah, you'll see it in a second. Okay, so I've measured the length of my board. I've measured it off. And what I forgot to say as well, I'm cutting this 18mm short of the actual measurement, because you don't want your plasterboard sitting on the floor. Should you ever have a leak or anything in the building, it soaks up the plasterboard then. So if you keep your plasterboard off the floor, it means that it just doesn't absorb into the bottom of the board then, because your skirting board is going to fill that gap anyway, so there's no biggie in terms of how it looks, because you're never going to see it. But it's just best to keep it up off the off the floor. So as I said, measured the sheet, and then what I've got here, you can't see it, but I've got my socket measured from the outside of the board to the start of the socket, the end of the socket, and from the bottom up as well. So I'll go ahead now, cut this and mark out my socket. So again, just using my level as my straight edge, good sharp Stanley knife, and I just literally rest my knee on it there to keep it from moving, and you just put a pretty heavy score across the bottom of the board, keeping a nice firm, like so. And then lift my level off. I've scored my board. Pull out your board down to the edge of the sheets, like so. And all you do is just give it a wee snap. Down it goes. Then you get your knife and run it along the joint. Cut the paper on the other side. Job done. That's your board cut. Now again, this doesn't really matter here because it's going to be at the bottom, but this is what they call a shear form. It's for just literally giving it a wee rub, take the rough edge off it. To be honest, it's a bit dusty, probably should be wearing a mask. But that's that. Okay, so I then have to mark out my socket. Just got my multi-tool now. I've pulled the sheet down so there's nothing below it. And I just use my finger. That's that. 2 sides. That's it. That's it. That's the socket. Now, because I'm taping and jointing, you want to be as accurate as you can here. Because really all you've got in terms of forgiveness is the lip that's around the socket, which is about maybe 10mm. So you sort of need it to be right. So you roughly get it into where it's going. Make sure you get the wires through there. And that isn't too bad. Like that. holding it there. And we'll get the screw in it here. In far enough that the head isn't sticking out, but yet don't over screw it or you're going to have problems. So what I'm going to do now is just put a few down here and put maybe 300 centimeters roughly. I'm not going to measure them, but like so. Okay, so you can see then your marks here and here. You plumb your line down. Okay, so I got on pretty well there in the last couple of hours. So I got on 5 sheets. So we have just a wee bit to do in here at the corner. And I got all my plugs lined up perfectly well right into this corner. And then you can see up there, the wall, at the top of the stud, there was a bit of a gap. So put in a bit of a filler there, just so when I get on my finished piece here, it'll all be okay. Bit of a, you know, it's not mad tight along some there, but I'll just put plenty of mud in it when I'm doing the tape and jointing. That's all I can do today. And to be honest, as I said, it's fairly repetitive. Maybe when I get round to doing the windows, I'll take you up there and just show you cutting around the windows, but I think it's fairly straightforward. That worked out well for me. So that's the plasterboard finished, and I've done a bit of tidying up, lifted the plastic off the floor. So I am now ready for the tape and jointing. So that's the whole lot done right around. Excuse the mess there. I still have to put a few tools away, and that is it right round to the front. So all good. Not gonna lie, I'm glad to see the back of it. It's not the easiest thing to do on your own, but yeah, worked okay. And as you can see along the bottom of the walls, as I said, I kept the sheets up 18 mil. I'm just going a wee bit closer and you can see. As you can see there. I'm going to start now the tape and jointing, and I've got my lights, my first row of lights marked here. So I know I've got that mark there, and I've got a mark down the other side. I'll pull a line up, and then I know it's 900 to the middle, and then it's 600 from the front out to my next row, and then it's 1070 between each light. So I know where all my lights are, but I'm going to leave that until I get all the taping and jointing done. So I'm going to leave this video here. I hope that I've done enough filming to let you see, for those that, like me, it's their first time doing this, and hopefully you'll see from my video that what I've done is basic enough. I've kept it as simple as I can. As I said, it's grand on your own. It's grand. Listen, it is a bit of a pain, but you'll manage it fine. Just once you get the ceilings up, my wife helped me with all those ceiling boards, and that's why I really didn't film any of that, because, you know, listen, I have to respect, she doesn't want to be in camera, that's fair enough. I got into a rhythm then, and I got stuck into it. As I said, this is filmed over the course of about a month. It hasn't taken me a month to do it. It's just I haven't been at it every weekend. And the good news is the evenings are getting a bit brighter now, so we'll be able to spend a bit more time after work in here. But once I get the taping and jointing done and to get it all sanded down, I'm just going to do a full coat of white. My wife has picked her floor, get the floor down, and that's pretty much her in. She, obviously the electrician has to just do his few wee bits and pieces, but there's not much for him to do either, because I've done all the first fix wiring myself, so that's a big saving in time and money for me, so I'm happy out with that. So as I said, don't want to rant on now. It's done. Hopefully there's enough footage there. I'll not know until I start going through it all now from right back at the start when I started putting in the electric boxes to the stages at now. And then I'm ready to start taping and jointing. Jesus, I can hardly talk today. Taping and jointing, I'm going to do all that myself as well. Again, self-taught, never done it before. I've watched a few videos on YouTube. I'll give you a few links if you want to copy them as well. Hopefully I'll be able to do it well enough that you'll be able to replicate what I do. So that's it. Until the next time, I'll be taping and jointing. I'll see you then.